Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Monday Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and this week we're joined by two of our correspondents heading into game week 31, where many of the listeners may well be on wildcard. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Crystal Palace correspondent at Migtavius. How are you, Mig?
Morning. Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I'm looking outside and it's snowing on Easter Monday, and I'm not joking, it really is snowing outside. Whereas Ted at Rotation FPL, our Chelsea correspondent, for the benefit of those on YouTube, you can see the sun shining off his face. How are you, Ted?
Yeah, if you ignore Saturday, I'm doing great.
I'm not going to ignore Saturday, mate. Mig.
Yes.
This has been a good season for Palace, hasn't it?
It's been yes. Well, it's been a good season, as in where we are in the table and stuff, which is where we probably aim to be most seasons, just staying in that mid-table mediocrity, maybe pushing for top half, but we're currently not in a relegation scrap, which means it's a good season.
We always end up having very similar conversations when you come on in terms of what may happen next with Roy Hodgson, etc. Going back to the defeat against Burnley, there were some quite serious protests outside Selhurst Park. COVID restricted, obviously. We talked about five people putting up banners about get him out, etc., not spending enough money. But since then, you've done the business to the extent that you've got yourselves out of trouble. When I think there's been times this season, I go back to even pre-season, I think a lot of us thought you'd go down. I think I go back to that period after Burnley when people like myself saying, I'm worried about Palace. They're going to get dragged back into this in spite of the fact they're clear. But you're safe, mate. And you've never been in the bottom five at any point all season.
Yeah. It's because I think because the football is so exciting at Palace at the moment, and we're grinding out results like we usually do. We have a bad spell at one point where we look like we're in danger, but then we somehow grind a few points out and just get over the safety net. It ticks along, which it has done for probably most of the last probably 5 or 6 seasons, where it's just sort of ticked into mid-table. I mean, we're kind of getting outshined by the likes of Newcastle for their protests about managers, but I think this summer is probably the closest we've come to Roy leaving, especially with his contract up. But he apparently doesn't want to discuss anything to do with his contract until the end of the season, which kind of puts that whole, if he leaves at the last minute, then we've kind of just got the summer to sort out a new guy, or we're going behind his back to find a new guy to hope that Roy goes. But then if he signs a new contract, then that kind of throws all that up in the loop. I mean, I know there's
that on the table, a potential new contract.
I assume so. I mean, he's doing what the board wants the manager to do. He's keeping us in the Prem and he's keeping us with the money. But I suppose if he wants to do a new season and we can't get the likes of Sean Dyche or Eddie Howe or whoever else is in the frame at the moment, then yeah, I could just sign him up for another year and then try to find someone again next year, I suppose.
I think the point is for Palace fans, it feels like it's going nowhere. I've spoken about my fear in terms of the boredom, like what Charlton fans had back in the noughties, where it was like, we're finishing 9th, 10th, we want to push to something else. But I'm not sure what the expectations are. I mean, if just looking at your points total since you came back in 13-14, whereas in the first 20 years of the Premier League, you were considered very much a yo-yo team, basically. You finished on 45, 48, 42, 41, 44, 49, and 43 points. You're on 37 points so far with, I think you've got 8 games to go. And in those seasons, you finished between 10th and 15th in all of them. What's the expectation for Palace fans? I think a lot of us from the outside are looking at it and going, what do you actually want? What's the expectation? Is the expectation that Palace are going to be a team that's going to qualify for Europe in the future?
I think the expectation is to try and become at least a team that's challenging for 7th. Probably nowhere near top 4, top 6 probably out. But there's always that normally around the sort of 7th, 8th. They can kind of squeeze into the Europa League. You had teams like Burnley doing it. Hull doing it at one point or something like that. So I think just having that looking like we're trying to get up the table rather than like Roy was in the papers this week saying, right, the pressure's off now, so we can. But then I don't know if that means the pressure's off and we can play more expansive football, or we're on the beach now, we're safe, we're fine, don't worry about it.
Is that what it is? Is it the type of football that's bothering Palace fans more than the actual results?
I think so. It seems like a lot more is like Roy Ball and stuff like that. It's just
Roy Ball.
it's going. You want to go to game. You want to be entertained. I mean, everyone puts the example of Leeds. I mean, some weeks they're brilliant. Some weeks they get smashed. But it's entertaining football either way. I mean, obviously you're hoping for more of the excellent football than getting smashed every week, like Fulham or West Brom or something. Well, sorry, not West Brom this week. It's all right. Werner's gonna smash in a hat trick on the weekend. It's fine. But it's playing a better form of football that's exciting, and so we can actually enjoy football rather than sort of going, oh, there's another 0-0, 1-0 loss. Oh, we've got a 1-0 win this week.
Ed, what's your thoughts on Palace? What do you think of them?
They're a team with a lot of players that I really like, but it never quite seems to come together. I think there's a few areas that look, I don't want to say held together by like plasters because that's a bit harsh, but there's like areas like sometimes I look at that defense and I think they can be very solid, but there's a lot of players there that I think need to be upgraded. And obviously it's easy for a Chelsea fan to talk about transfers, but it's an area that would worry me. I think they're a team that should be well at the table. Some of the players they've got, such as Zaha, such as Ezra, they're brilliant. I love them. They're such exciting players to watch. But I just don't know if they are going to be in that position for a couple of seasons yet.
Michy Batshuayi, Christian Benteke, Jeff Schlupp, Patrick Van Arnholt, Andros Townsend, Mamu Sakho, Tyreek Mitchell, Nathaniel Klein, James McCarthy, James MacArthur, Joel Ward, Gary Cahill, Wayne Hennessy, Scott Dan, Martin Kenny, Connor Wickham, young Stephen Henderson, all apparently out of contract in 2 months' time, Mig.
Yeah.
That's where the overhaul's coming from, isn't it? Getting a lot of the let's be honest, average players off the books and starting again.
Yeah, that's pretty much the main thing is just getting the. I mean, I don't like to bash on him too much, but the likes of like PVA out because we know his defensive faults kind of outweigh his attacking threat most of the time. There's a lot of aged legs at the back. I mean, I know we want experience, but you kind of want that blend of experience with a bit of youthful legs somewhere. Again, aged legs in the middle of the field. Milivojevic has been a bit of a liability this season, more yellow cards than he has probably assists or goals. All the threat is on the wing. Benteke has been better, but then that was a low bar to get better from. You buy in someone like Mateta and then don't start him.
He scored against Brighton and barely seen him since.
Yeah, I mean he scores in your local derby, but
we know, mate.
yeah, abbreviations there.
So I said it's Tottenham the most. He's got loads of London clubs closer, so you can dig it out today, mate.
Yeah, but and then doesn't do anything with him. I mean, it's just like, oh, you're bringing you in January to hopefully score some goals and get us up, and then you just kind of knock his confidence by not playing him. A bit like Batshuayi at the start of the season. You don't really saying we're going to go with this guy who hasn't really scored many goals for us. We're just going to try and do better. But there's got to be an overhaul, but then there's got to be the money there as well. We're not going to get a lot of money for all these players.
If they're out of contract, they're just going to go. Yeah. It's a case of getting rid of the wages, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably the easiest way to get rid of a lot of these players is actually rather than getting them bought, you probably wouldn't get the money. I mean, you obviously wouldn't get the money back for someone like Benteke, for example, and who's going to take on his wages? It's up to Benteke to now find those wages if he wants to stay on them with another club. Solves you a problem. I don't know what you'd get now, 10 million maybe from an overseas club at best, maybe.
Yeah, probably if that China was probably our best bet. But that's thing. We had one of the older squads, but in Europe, we were in like the top 10 for wages or something ridiculous like that. And it's just like, why are we paying these players so much? We don't have the money. And then we can't go out and buy players, and we usually lose them to West Ham.
Is Batshuayi still your player, Ted?
Yeah, somehow.
It's a lot of players. We were talking about it before we started. We don't even know if they're still Chelsea players or not. You mentioned Victor Moses as well. Where's Moses?
So he's in the Russian Premier League at the moment. We've got tons at the moment.
Zappacosta, is he just still hanging about the club, is he?
Zappacosta's in Italy, I want to say, with Bakayoko as well over there.
Have these guys got any chance when they come back? Just purely because obviously Tuchel won't have seen them, will he?
No chance.
Okay.
I've seen them play enough. No, they're not coming back in.
No one would have given West Bromwich Albion a chance on Saturday, mate. What happened?
Where do you start? It was one of those games. I'm almost not angry about it because I'm still sort of struggling to believe it happened. How do you concede 5 to West Brom like that? Nobody saw that coming. Problems all across the pitch. The defence was horrendous. Faults from everyone. I don't know how many times we're going to talk about it, but Alonso can't defend. Players can't stick to a plan. Mentality was dreadful. Something that Lampard picked up on. Something that Conte picked up on. The middle of the park was lost. I think Jorginho and Kovacic together. There's only a couple games in the season where I think that pairing should be playing together, and this was not one of them. I don't know what Billy Gilmore has to do to get minutes in this team. Apparently he's murdered Tuchel dog or something. I don't know. Forward line, allegedly, yeah. Forward line was poor, wasting chances, not really creating enough. It's just disappointing all across the board.
There's got to be something to explain away what happened in a game where in 14 games since Tuchel came in, you conceded 2. We spoke in the days before he got the job, and we spoke again, I think 4 games in before you played Newcastle on a Monday night with Si. And what we were saying then was we're not quite sure because you hadn't really played anyone. I know you played Tottenham, but I mean, Tottenham didn't turn up at all that night. So we didn't know what would happen when you came up against real strong opposition. You went to Anfield and won and were brilliant. I know Liverpool obviously had defensive problems, but you well deserved to win. Against United was 0-0. That gave everybody the confidence in your defence. You conceded 2 goals in 14 games, which includes 2 games against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League as well, and FA Cup games. And in the same period since Tuchel had took over, West Brom had scored 5 Premier League goals. How does it happen? So is it just as easy to put it down to the red card? Because even red card aside, you shouldn't, with 9 men, you shouldn't be conceding 5, should you?
Yeah. I think you've got to give credit to West Brom first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Because they were fantastic. They're finishing. I don't know what we've done to Callum Robinson, but against us, he is like prime Messi. He is incredibly good. They played very well. The CDM, who I just call OK,
Yoksulu, yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really good. And they came with a game plan and they stuck to it and they pulled it off. And you know what? Full credit to them because they deserved it. Not sure they deserve 5 goals. That more came down to some dodgy defending. And I've talked about it a number of times, but we don't track late. Forwards that arrive late in the box, we never track their runs. Never. And again, it happened today. Callum Robinson's, his first goal was coming in and Jorginho's sort of off, sort of 10 metres away and Kovacic isn't even in the picture. It's a problem that happens to us all the time.
Is that not a case of maybe trying to get back in the game? I mean, you were already behind at that point.
Yeah, but you've still got Mason Mount dropping back. You still need your players to drop back like that. I fully understand. So I'm not a fan of us playing a back 5 against teams like West Brom. Against Porto, fully in favour of it. Definitely should play a back 5, and I think we should play Kovacic and Jorginho as well. Against West Brom, give me a back 4. Once that red card happens, Ziyech goes off and Christensen comes on. That was a transfer that a lot of people have said, sub that a lot of people have said shouldn't really have happened. We should have been a bit more offensive. I actually fully agree with it. I think when we're 1-0 up, you want to just control the game and keep it secure. So I fully understand it in that sense, but you still have to drop back. You have to offer the defence that protection, because our defence spends so much time just watching the ball when people are running directly at them. You can see Zuma getting completely lost, flat-footed, not knowing where the ball is, and it leaves these big pockets of space behind them. It's just, we've got to wake up. We've got to get a proper defensive six probably there to help out with that.
What's first choice, in your opinion? We know obviously Thiago Silva will be suspended for the Palace game now, but generally speaking, if you're playing Champions League semi-final tomorrow, what's the makeup of the back three and the wing backs, in your opinion? It'll
be Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, Rudiger, pretty comfortably. Christensen's played very well, but I can't see him getting in on any of those. He might. I've been saying it for about 3 years now, but Azpilicueta is probably due a rest at some point, and Christensen would be the guy to come in there. Rudiger, in fact, any of them taking a break, it'll probably be Christensen coming in. On the left, I want Chilwell because Alonso can't defend. Going forwards against a team like West Brom, Alonso is fantastic. I think he's one of the top players for shots in the box under Tuchel so far this season. He is incredible, and he is due a goal. On the right-hand side, I prefer Reece James, though Hudson-Odoi is fantastic as well. There's going to be rotation everywhere, though. That's the problem.
Is it a fair case then? For obviously, a lot of people, certainly within the Twitter community, went for Alonso at the weekend, and won't have done it just for the West Brom game. We've done it for Crystal Palace and other games coming up afterwards. So, Palace, Brighton, West Ham, Fulham, your next four. Does that mean, with what you're saying, then Alonso could play in a lot of those games, or is it just a case of he probably plays against Palace and that's it? Because the other three have actually got threatening players in wide areas. With respect, Mig, not like you've got Zaha's and Eze's. We'll come on to that. But I just mean in terms of perhaps domination of the ball, the others will come at you with a bit more. I mean, West Ham, you don't want to allow them to have the ball in wide areas because they'll just sling it in the box for the likes of C.O.T.C. Midfield runners, exactly what you're talking about and stuff, Ted. So, I mean, is it a case even for that? If we're looking at, I mean, who would you say probably plays right side for you tonight and at the weekend, Mig? Is it Townsend going to play out there, or Jordan Ayew probably, isn't it?
Probably, yeah. Could you probably go with? Could you playing the two up front? So yeah, no,
it's probably Ayew on the right. I'd say
definitely one of those two. Which obviously not a massive threat from the right, but
is that a Marcus Alonso game if he's playing Jordan Ayew? Ted, do you think?
Yeah, I think Chilwell will probably play both Porto games. Alonso give him Palace, and then we've got will it be City after that? That'd be another Chilwell game, almost certainly. And then after that,
Brighton.
I'd prefer to have Chilwell, but you may well see Alonso there again. Yeah, I wasn't interested in Alonso at all for a transfer. If I was on like a wild card this week, then yeah, I might have gone for a 1 week punt on him. But it's a sort of player where I don't feel confident he's going to start at any point. And I don't like owning those sort of players. I'm feeling nervous about every week. So yeah, I wouldn't risk it.
Are you on wild card now, Ted?
No, I'm not. I'm saving it for. I don't know what I'm saving it for.
The potential clusterfuck of perhaps blanks and doubles at the end, which could feature a monster double game week for Chelsea of Manchester City and Arsenal. You could have one as well, Mig, by the way. You could have one against Sheffield United and Villa. It's not that bad at all, actually. That's obviously down to government legislation if we end up with a double game week 35. Did you take the punt on a Chelsea player at the weekend, Ted?
I was looking at Rudiger and then decided against it because I thought he'd be benched. So pretty happy with that.
Who have you got at the moment?
Me?
Yeah, from Chelsea.
Nobody. I'd buy Rudiger's my main target. Mendy I'd look at possibly, but other than that, I'm zero interest in anyone else at the moment.
Any put off by the stories leaked yesterday of a training ground bust up between Rudiger and Kepa? There's nothing in that, is there?
No, it's not the first time this has happened this season. It's just unfortunate timing that, Matt Law is a very good journalist, but he knows he can get clicks from this.
I'm not going to say who Matt Law works for. We won't publicise the paper. Have you got any Chelsea players, Meg?
No, I almost got mounted.
How?
But for Bale, but then I thought I'll leave Bale just in case of the double. But yeah, no, I haven't got any Chelsea.
Make the case, Mig, if you can, for Zaha over, or if you want to, Zaha over Mason Mount Same price in FPL currently, 7.1. Ted's already shaking his head like you can't.
Yeah, we got the better fixtures. No, we haven't. He's in 4. No, wait, he's not.
Oh, you can't.
A little bit more exciting. I don't know.
Just honestly, is there any reason to consider, and we can be honest about this, any reason to consider any Crystal Palace players at this moment?
Purely for budget.
Who would interest?
If you're wildcarding and you've already used your bench boost like I have, then you could get Mitchell. I think he's like 3.8, 3.7 now, possibly. Just to stick him on the end of your bench. I think he's back in training. You never know; he might get a game before the end of the season. But yeah, it's purely.
Is he 3.8 now, Mitchell?
Yeah, he dropped way down.
I mean, if you're one of them that's not worried about what's on your bench, I suggest for a lot of people probably like the game week 33 blanks for Tottenham and Manchester City and Southampton, Fulham, and what may be to come. It's probably made a lot of wildcarders very conscious of their bench. But if you do want to go budget scrape, that's where you go, isn't it? 3.8 Mitchell. It's actually obvious, isn't it?
Just to stick him on the bench. You never know, he may come to a rescue in one of the blank game weeks, but he's only recently back in training, so I don't think you will see him for another couple of games yet. But yeah, I wouldn't up front. There's not really much to pay for. Midfield, there's not enough goals to warrant getting anything. I mean, I did like that Palace actually done an article on their website about potential FPL assets, which was basically Zaha, Joe Ward, I think, and possibly Schlupp. But and Guaita. You could possibly go for Guaita, but then at his price, you got people like Mendy in the same sort of frames. You got people cheaper, like Areola, Martinet. I mean, there's just better options in the price ranges, like Mount with Zaha. He's doing better. I was surprised that he got benched, but then I suppose he's been playing a lot of minutes, and he even came on and scored. So, whereas
one player you didn't mention is Eze, 5.8.
And he did well. He should really be put on penalties now after his under-21 penalty. So they're quite nice and coolly. Yeah, I mean, if you want a cheap. I mean, he's probably quite expensive if you want a cheap 5th midfielder. Maybe a cheap 4th midfielder might be all right. But he on his day, he can be great. But he has gone a little bit missing sometimes. But that's mainly when Wilf hasn't been there. And then all the defensive attention gets dragged onto him. Whereas they kind of split it when they're both playing. So they're able to get a little bit more freedom. But yeah, if Wilf plays and he can go down for a couple of free kicks and stuff like that, maybe Eze can be an option. I mean, I got him in a draft, but
I can't see that Eze would get the penalties in spite of that spot kick for the under-21s ahead of Zaha or Milivojevic if either are on the pitch. Jorginho is a better FPL option than Eze, isn't he, Ted?
For God's sake. Yeah, no, I'm never going to advise buying Jorginho. There's so many midfielders at the moment in Fantasy Premier League. It's hard to really say you can go for any of these guys because there's so many that I want at the moment. Either premium or players like Neto have got fantastic fixtures coming up.
Well, Mount would be the one from you, wouldn't he? Just on reliability, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to play. He'll pick up a couple goals. I mean, we haven't scored 3 goals under Tuchel yet in a game.
I know, it's mad.
I'm looking at all of our fixtures and I can't see us scoring more than 3 goals or 3 or more goals in any of those, apart from, I mean, possibly Palace, but I still don't think so. So, are you really looking at an attacker? Werner hat-trick of misses is more likely, mate. Yeah, I can't really say go for Chelsea attackers. I mean, Havertz is going to be an interesting one because Tuchel does really see him as a number 9. There is some talk that there's a chance it will move to a 4-3-3 for next season. So it is worth watching what happens there. It's obviously all depending on transfers and whatnot, but he may get more and more games in the middle of that attack, which could make him interesting. But again, when you've got like the Son with a double game week, you've got your Salahs, your Fernandez's, Jota as well. Looking out, there's so many midfielders I'd rather go with rather than risk a Chelsea attacker.
That's why I think it would be Mount if you were going. I mean 7.1 is reasonable. He's got 128 FPL points this season. It's not bad, mate.
It's not terrible, but like I said, I'd rather.
Is he not playing further forward now?
Yeah, he is, and he's gonna get goals. He's gonna get assists. He's just not gonna get a huge amount. I'm just checking the price of, so, I mean, Jota's 6.8. Are you going to take Mount or Jota?
Well, if you're on wildcard, why not both?
Because there's too many other midfielders already want. You know, even someone like Rafinha, who's doing fantastically well at the moment. I know he's got some tough games coming up, but his stats are ridiculous. If you want to follow fixtures, you'd look at Neto. Is there really one aspect that Mount stands out in? I mean, if I had him, I wouldn't be rushing to sell him, but I'm not going wild over him.
So this is quite simply defensive then.
Yeah, Rudiger, Mendy.
And you think Rudiger stand it because of price, I guess, on
price.
Rudiger?
Yeah, I think he should be first choice. I mean, there is a risk that he'll miss a couple games, but I see no reason why he shouldn't be starting. Azpilicueta's the most nailed one, but do I really want to pay that much more money for someone that's 100% nailed? I don't think so. I think I'd rather take Rudiger.
Well, this time next week, if we'd have had the conversation, I don't know if that might have been different on the perspective. We'd have been looking at it going, well, yeah, there's another guaranteed clean sheet this weekend, and he'll probably play again. And he did. Right? Azpilicueta did get picked at the weekend. I know Zuma was not the only player to have a bad day for Chelsea at the weekend, and it probably does mean that Rudiger comes back in the team. But it's going to be a bit of weightage between Champions League progression, obviously securing fourth. I think if you'd have won on Saturday, that 5 point, I think you would have had a 5 point buffer, wouldn't you, rather than 2 points, would have looked really strong. So I'm not saying ease off in the Premier League, but then you've got that buffer, you've got that insurance if you'd lost the game like you did on Saturday. Whereas now, I think particularly like Liverpool coming up on the rails, and obviously West Ham could go above you tonight as well.
Yeah, I think rotation's going to happen pretty much no matter what. I would try to not overthink it when it comes to players like Rudiger. I think I'd be fairly confident. I mean, the only reason he missed this game is because he played so much with Germany. So he's had a break now. We should see him in the team for a good stint. I'm sure he'll have another break, possibly after the Man City game from the FA Cup. But yeah, other than that, I'm not too stressed about it.
Chilwell, James, just avoid.
Yeah, I can't warrant their prices. And yeah, it's just too hard to predict what's going on.
What's your thoughts on the Mig in terms of Chelsea assets and particularly defensively?
I always like to have one of the wing backs just for the added potential attacking returns. But yeah, like most teams, well, quite a lot of the teams this season, the wing backs that have been rotation risks. I mean, you just have to look at City, even Palace have been rotation risks. So if you're going for a Chelsea asset for clean sheets, you need to have reliability of minutes, which you're going to have people like Azpilicueta, Rudiger, obviously probably the better value for the money. But I completely agree with what Ted said. I'll stick clear of the risks unless you accept that there's going to be games where, right, I'm going to have Chilwell, I'm going to have Alonso. I know that he's not going to play every single game, but I just hope that he makes up the points in the games that he does play. Then carry on with those. But if you're wanting a Diaz style reliability of minutes, then you're looking at the likes of Azpilicueta and Rudiger.
In any case for the double up, Ted? Or was Saturday just way put you off? Yeah, that go as PM Rudiger.
Yeah. I don't. Why not? I think I'd be more likely to go with Mendy and Rudiger, mainly because Martinez's games are a bit shaky now. He's got some tougher fixtures, and Azpilicueta's just so expensive. I think that'd be the only thing that put me off. But yeah, I wouldn't be put off by this last performance. I mean, it's just one game. You got to look at it. If you look at all the games we've had under Tuchel, I think this is an outlier. So
Liverpool lost 7-2 and City lost 5-1 to Leicester. So it's not exactly like going to turn them into a terrible team overnight. You're just going to bounce back and beat Palace. So.
It's in the file of we know it happened, but we can't really explain what happened. I mean, that's the first time you've ever conceded 5 goals at home in a Premier League game ever,
and it's to West Brom. Yeah, it's like.
A week too early.
It definitely files in with the Villa 7-2, the Tottenham 6-1, the Leicester 5-2, and a few other mad results that we can definitely say, only in a COVID season. Have you used your second wild card, Mig?
I'm on it right now.
You're on it now. So are you locking Rudiger into your team as we speak?
I may just bring him in. Hold on. I may do it.
You don't have to do it right now.
I got Cresswell, Digne. DS Dallas, and he could go in for Dallas.
Yeah, maybe. Leeds are interesting in the sense of got up for wildcard. They've obviously got 3 tough fixtures now against City, Liverpool, and United. But actually, their final 5 fixtures are quite good. Leeds, and that's what I meant maybe about like. I think good comparison might be you talking about Rafinha, Ted, and I quite agree with that. Rafinha is well capable of returning even in those 3 difficult games. But you could go, for example, Mount versus Palace, Brighton, West Ham, and then go back. And it's the sort of thing a wild card might well consider to go down that sort of route.
Yeah, it's definitely got legs that.
I want to give you a case scenario, Mig. If let's say you wasn't using that second wild card and you was using it in game week 34, and Crystal Palace had a very easy upcoming fixture of Manchester City at home in that particular game week, but it might be followed by a game week 35 double of Sheffield United and Aston Villa. If you got to that point, do you think, bar Tyrick Mitchell, if he was back in the team, you would consider anybody if you were bench boosting?
Yeah, I'd probably take a punt on if you don't want to take the risk on the legend that is Mitchell. You could go with Ward, who's probably the next cheapest player. If you're not in the top 10k and you really want to have a little bit of fun, you could go for a Zaha or something. Because we know that obviously City are going to come out and play. We're going to sit back, hit them on the counter. We tend to do quite well against Manchester clubs.
Mainly United.
Smashed. Mainly United, but not everyone can beat United. It's probably I'd probably be more worried about the easy quote unquote double because we tend to not be very good as a possession based team. So coming up against someone like Sheffield United or
I wouldn't expect you to have more possession against Sheffield United, particularly as it's away as well.
Yeah, we can't do it. So we're just like, okay, you have the ball and we'll try and counter you, whoever you are.
You don't win games of football when you have more of the ball. But then, perversely, really interesting stat I've found on your season, Mig, is you've got 37 points. 20 of those points have come against the bottom 5. And it's that consistency, that's from the 9 games you played. You've only got Sheffield United to go. It's that consistency that's really got you out of trouble. And if you look just above you in the table, you've beat Southampton at home, you've beat Wolves at home, you've beat Leeds at home. Some of them are below you, by the way. But the teams in and around you, not in the bottom 5. So that's another 9 points to add on. Suddenly there's 29 of your 37 points, mate, which does suggest that you've got a problem against some of the bigger clubs in the league.
Yeah. It's usually we can't balance the both. It's either we're good against the big 6 and then rubbish against lower teams because we can't play possession, or like this season we'll beat everyone around us and then we just won't turn up against the bigger teams. Maybe
your consistency against bottom half teams has been really good. I mean that 20 points from the 9 games against the bottom 5. I've not looked through what other teams have done, but I think. I mean, Ted, you just say you've taken 1 point against West Brom this year. It's not as straightforward as it sounds to take the points against those clubs, actually. Let's leave it there, guys. Mig, you've got a game to come first tonight against Everton. Can I ask, are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, I always look forward to Palace games. I think that goes without saying.
Do you?
No. But no, I think it should be, Everton have been a bit shaky recently, so I think we got a good chance of beating it, probably a better chance of beating them than we did the last time I was on, which I think we lost 2-1. So I can see a similar sort of result, but hopefully we're the one with the 2 this time. But obviously Calvert-Lewin is back now, just at the right time for us. In scoring form for England and such. So
he's in both my FPL and my Sky teams tonight, Mig. So I'm looking for him to get a return.
Team.
Oh, right, okay. I won't ask you any more about that.
Trying to curse him as much as I can.
Are you expecting to get beat tonight then?
I'd expect to, yeah. I'm thinking if I can be quite downbeat about it, then hopefully they can come back.
Yeah, pull one out of the bag. And let's do correct score predictions for Saturday then. Is the game Saturday? It's Saturday, isn't it?
I think so,
yeah.
Yes.
Go for it, Mig. You're the home team.
Well, I was looking back at what we did last time, and we haven't won in like the last 8 times, but there hasn't been a draw since 1995.
Is that
between
right?
Palace and Chelsea?
That's mad.
Yeah, so I'd like to say it'd be a draw, but no, I think Chelsea will pip it probably about. I'd say pip it about 3-1.
Oh, clean sheet wipeout.
I'm telling you, Werner's going to score. I'm telling you.
Werner's going to score. Will he even play, Ted?
We give confidence to out of form strikers. Just not our own.
We do the same though. That's the problem.
And take a Werner masterclass.
Yeah,
that Callum Robinson stat that he scored 5 Premier League goals and they've all been against Chelsea is insane. That's crazy. Don't worry, Joe Linton's got half his Newcastle goals against Tottenham, so I know how it feels. Go on, correct score prediction, Ted.
I think I'll go boring 2-0 Chelsea. I can't see us scoring 3, and I think we'll probably keep a clean sheet. So easy that.
Yeah, I think low scoring. I think you're Wednesday in the Champions League as well, aren't you, Ted, this week? Yeah, so you've got Wednesday, then Palace Saturday, and then obviously Porto again on Tuesday. I mean, both games were in Seville against Porto, am I right in saying that?
Yes, it's in Spain. That's what I remember. So.
It's two neutral games anyway. It's not actually a home and away, so you've got to do the travelling as well. So I think, low scoring encounter is what I'd think. I think it's part of the course. I'd probably say 1-0 Chelsea, to be honest. I think, Ted, you might have swung it for me to get Rudiger rather than Azpilicueta, actually, in terms of what you can do with the saving. Might allow me to get Mason Mount in for a couple of weeks, actually. Do you still think you'll finish top 4?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got enough form and enough talent and a deep enough squad to do multiple competitions at once and still get top 4.
And obviously, you've still got FA Cup semi-final against Man City to come, which, should you win that, you'll obviously be very confident of winning the final, I should imagine. But for Champions League, you've obviously picked out the draw that everybody wanted. What's your expectation or hopes for that? You must have that little tingle of excitement about it, surely.
Yeah, it's starting to come together. I'm weirdly more not confident, but I'm looking forward to Champions League more than I am Premier League, just because I think those games sort of suit us more. I like us being up against tougher teams. It's a bit more exciting. I think we could definitely win it. I think the bookies odds have us 3rd or 4th now. We're really climbing up. So yeah, why not? Let's go for a run. It's all starting to come together.
You've landed on the right side of the draw, haven't you? I mean, it's not to say that Real Madrid or Liverpool would be easy, but to avoid Man City, Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern all till the final is a right touch, isn't it, I think?
Yeah. Well, people are drawing comparisons between, Werner and Torres, but, Torres was an important part in getting us past a Portuguese opponent, then a Spanish opponent, and then Bayern. So
whatever 11 you put on
Gary Neville's scream again.
Yeah.
Really, whatever 11 if you get to the final, whatever 11 you put out will probably be stronger than the 11 you had in Munich in 2012. In fairness, and ironically, unbelievable that I mean, even think of Tottenham's path to the final, crazy, and how we got there with arguably the poorest team we had over sort of a 6-7 year period. You had the same in 2012, possibly arguably, I guess, over a 15-year period, one of your weakest teams was the year you managed to go on and win it. Liverpool 2005 as well. At the end of the day, it's still a cup competition. Yeah. And with no fans as well, the whole gig just becomes weirder and strange shit can happen. I think you've got a chance, actually, mate. I wouldn't rule you out of winning that competition.
No, definitely do.
At all. I'd rather talk about you doing it this year than you did in 2012. Jesus, it still bothers me. Right, thanks very much, guys. You can follow Mig at Migtavius on Twitter, and you can follow Ted at Rotation FPL. We've still got our main feature podcast tomorrow, reviewing all the Game Week 30 action. Sky Fantasy Football on Wednesday. I'll be streaming on Thursday. On Friday, we've got a special coming out as early as possible on Friday for wildcarders. I'm active. I think Suj is probably active as well. I'll be streaming again ahead of the deadline stream. Clash of Correspondents probably will revert to a Thursday next week, I should imagine. Be previewing Wolves and Sheffield United with Bradley Parker and Ben Tomo Thompson. But other than that, Mig, Ted, good luck for the rest of the week and at the weekend. Cue music, please, man, child.